Welcome to the Weaving Magic podcast,
where we discuss the different ways to weave magic throughout your daily life.
We are your hosts, Alyssa Lilly
and Tara Webb,
and we are thrilled to guide you in this magical journey of exploration and ritual. Hey Magic Weaver, Alyssa Lilly here, your host, and before we dive into this episode here on YouTube, I wanted to let you know, so you're not surprised or caught off guard, that Tara and I are wearing face masks in this video, and we wash them off with a rag as we're talking because this is our self-care like witches. So just wanted to give you fair warning so it wasn't alarming or anything when we're popping up with stuff all over our face. So you've been forewarned. We're going to be doing self-care like a witch today.
Hey Magic Weaver, and welcome back to the Weaving Magic podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Lilly.
And I am Tara Webb.
And before we dive into this magical episode, we wanted to take you or invite you to join us at a moment to pause and ground and be present. So if you have to have your eyes open, keep your eyes open if you're driving or wherever you're listening to this. But if you do have the safe space to close your eyes, I invite you to do that now. And just allow yourself to notice how you feel in this moment. And we'll start with emotionally. How are you feeling right now? Give it a name, even if it's difficult. You don't have to write a story or have a why. Just what are you feeling? And then I want you to slowly bring your attention to your breath. Notice how you're breathing naturally. Are you breathing short breaths? Long breaths, maybe it's in your chest versus your belly, and just get in tune with your body and where it's at in this present moment. Then I invite you to sink in further. Begin to lengthen your breaths and breathe deep into your belly. If you can, through your nose, breathe in. Fill that belly up all the way, the biggest breath you've taken all day, and then just sigh it out. We're going to do it again. Breathe in through your nose. Fill that belly up, hold at the top, and then just let it all go. I encourage you to do this a few more times as we talk through the next section of being present. Remember just to keep that breath deep and in a way that feels good to you. And as you do that, check in with your body. How does your body feel right now? Maybe you need to stretch or move or wiggle in a way that just feels yummy to your body, and give you a moment to love on yourself and respect that. And when you're ready, you can blink your eyes open and wiggle your toes and fingers and come back to our lovely podcast topic on magic.
We felt like we needed that before diving into this topic, and I think that those listening will probably agree. Just sometimes we need to come back to, who we are, who our breath is. And so whenever Alyssa was asking, what are you feeling right now? I just feel sadness, like a deep sadness. Not in a negative way, not like I'm bawling my eyes out. Not that I'm depressed, just sadness. And then, I really like what you said of you don't have to put a story with it. And I feel like so many times we do put a name to our emotions, but feel like we have to justify it.
Or that we do have to tell that story. I'm sad because X, Y, Z. And I feel like we need to normalize. Sometimes you just feel sad.
Mhm.
I think the important question to ask is not why, but just, is this my emotion or is this coming from somewhere else?
Mm.
I think that's the only question I would say is a good one to ask when you're trying to identify an emotion.
And what would you say for those who maybe do ask that question? It's like, I don't know, how do I get that answer? Or what does that answer even mean if, what comes up? Because, we do talk about tuning into our bodies
Mhm.
and that intuition and, asking that question, is this my sadness? And if that answer comes back, no, for those that don't know what that means, what advice would you give them? How would you move through that?
Hmm. Honestly, I'm taken aback. I wasn't prepared for this question. I would say to just acknowledge out loud or in your mind, just saying, I recognize that these emotions are not mine. And it is hard to tell at first, but I think once you start asking the question and feeling it in your body, is this emotion mine? And then pausing and noticing where you feel it in your body and what it feels like, you will notice that your emotions have a unique and familiar essence to them, whereas somebody else's emotions will feel, it'll almost not make sense sometimes. Or sometimes we have that sadness that hits us that we don't understand, and it's because it's not ours. And sometimes we just have that sadness that hits us that we're not meant to understand. It's just our body moving through something. And a lot of times when we have these emotions that come up that are ours, like a sadness that we don't know what the story is, we don't know the why, right? We don't have to have one. It could be trauma or past hurt or past sorrow that maybe we don't need to reflect on that past moment, but it just needs to be moved through your body. So just give yourself permission to feel it. Notice where it is in your body. Put your hand on that part, see it, love it. And just if a memory comes up, see it. If it doesn't, that's okay too. And I always encourage journaling too, just to see what comes up.
Those are some really good tips. Whenever we were coming back from Miami and my flight got delayed like 8 hours, before I knew it was delayed, I'd walked into the Miami airport and I was like past security, all that kind of stuff. And I walked to where my flight deck, is that what it's called? Where the actual like airport.
Oh, your gate?
Yeah, my gate. And there's this person in front of me, and I like sat down with all of my stuff, and it was just like a like a sigh of just life's hard, coming back from Miami, life is so hard, you know what I mean? Of, just life, right? And the person looked at me and was like, I feel that. And we have formed a bond just from me sighing and releasing that and them responding and all the shit that went down for like 8 hours of our flight being late. We formed a bond, and I now know this random person who is, I think, in North Carolina. We text every now and then. It's really cool. So like when you're honest with your body and you release that, I mean, yeah, it sounds really weird, but maybe someone else is feeling that, and you releasing that is giving them permission to be like, oh yeah, today has been really fucking hard.
Because we get trapped in this because it's good to be positive and it's good to be grateful, but we get stuck in this toxic positivity that we don't give ourselves permission to feel that. And especially in situations where you're in an airport and everybody's flight's been delayed 8 hours, and it's not really anybody's fault, it's a storm and all this chaos is going on. You're like, okay, I got to keep a positive outlook. And you see someone else just freaking give into it. You're like, oh yeah, that's what I needed, right? You give someone else permission to just feel that for a moment.
Mm-hmm. So Alyssa and I I think we've mentioned that we do witchy shit every Wednesday. And I've been really called and looking for a coach to like go deeper with myself, go deeper with my practice. And I feel like there's a bridge missing between, what I'm stepping into and who I'm wanting to be and that kind of stuff. And as I was looking for coaches, none of them fully fit what I was looking for. Like there were some that were just like, yes, this is awesome. And then the price wasn't what I was looking for. Or the price was okay. And I was like, I feel like I am already past that in some ways. So Alyssa and I decided to commit to each other and committing to ourselves and actually coach each other. And the whole reason I'm bringing this up is because we had a really powerful witchy practice last night. Was it yesterday?
Yesterday afternoon, yep.
Where we actually came back to our practice after a while, and I mean, sat with each other in ritual, pulled cards, and committed to ourselves with like actual rings on, you know, what we're wanting to work on and how we want to love ourselves. And something that, you know, we've talked a lot about with self-care and giving to yourself. And I think sometimes you have to take it up a notch and not just give to yourself, but make it like an intentional ritual in whatever belief that you have. For us, it's like, you know, witchy stuff with candles and runes and cards and like that kind of thing. For you, if it's reading the Bible, you know, really giving to yourself and maybe journaling on certain scriptures, whatever it is, right? Because that will like up your skincare. We are also wearing masks at the moment, our rose masks. Mine is a rose powder with rose sugar. And Alyssa, you have?
I have rose powder, honey, and a little of my moon all mixed together.
A lot of their moon.
Yeah.
It will up your self-care and your skincare. Because it's like you're giving an even more intentional connection behind it.
Well, and I think that a big realization that I had when we were doing our ceremony is we always set these in, you know, we talk about intentions and manifesting, and it's so big in the spiritual community right now, regardless of your belief, you know, manifest, make your life what you want. And I think we spend so much time striving and doing that we don't just let it unfold. Like we want to control the outcome, right? And you know, when we got together in ceremony, we decided to coach each other. We were really like thinking about what kind of goals do we want to set? What do we want to manifest? And then instead of trying to manifest, you know, a forced business or trying to manifest, I'm going to make this amount of money. It was, I'm going to manifest loving myself to my fullest and stepping into my truth and authenticity. And I love that it was more of a commitment to ourselves. And in doing that, our higher vibration is going to attract what we deserve, right?
A lot that I've realized about myself, you know, I'm trying to come back to ritual, routine, really like I would love to wake up before the boys. That is just my ultimate goal right now. And my body, you know, as I said, I feel sadness. My body is just like heavy and tired. And it's almost as if it's like winter time, but it's not winter. My body may be in winter right now. And it's been very difficult. I know Alyssa's talked about this too, waking up. Like no matter how much sleep we're getting, it feels just really difficult waking up.
So heavy in the morning, bag under the eyes, and I'm not fully awake until like 1 o'clock.
Yep. And that's a question I started asking myself and us as well when we were, you know, on this journey yesterday. You know, we want this for ourselves during the day. But I've been looking at it like, you know, how do I get there? Well, it begins the night before. You know, if you want to wake up in the morning, or if you want to, at a certain time, if you want to make sure that you're eating a certain time in the morning or a certain food, if you're wanting to, you know, at lunch, be more motivated to maybe go for that walk or something, the way, in my opinion, it all starts the night before. Because at that time, you are either scrolling on your phone or on a screen, or maybe you're doing none of those things and you're working by, even like if you're, you know, writing your book or something, but you're still staying up late. Well, if you're going to stay up late and then have to wake up early the next morning, you're still going to be in that continual pattern. And so for us, it was really beautiful looking at, you know, not only what are, as Alyssa said, we didn't necessarily go like our goals are to have this many people download our podcast or like that kind of thing. It was self-care, but then it wasn't just, what does self-care look like us throughout the day? It was, how do we start the pattern off in the right place? What does that look like, giving to ourselves even before we're realizing that we need it? Because that's when you actually kind of have to give to yourself. When you need it is when you're
you've gotten to the point that you've not given to yourself for so long that it's you have to at that point.
Mm-hmm. And that comes, I feel like, so easy for us. That's something I've been talking with my husband about, because he's very good about, working with the kids and giving me the time that I need to have my self-care. Yesterday I went and bought new eyeshadows and, well, makeup and stuff in general, because I really wanted that for myself to kind of enjoy more of the glamour aspect. And there's going to be an episode coming about glamour. And so, he was like, yeah, go for it, whatever, I'll put the kids to bed. He's very good about giving that to me, but has a very difficult job giving it to himself. He will be working out and then let the kids not bother him, but derail him from working out, because they need this and they need that. And I mean, it took him like 4 hours to work out today because we kept coming in or whatever. But then it's also because he derails himself. He allows himself to be derailed by himself. And I think that it's very easy for us to allow others to derail us because we allow ourselves to derail us. We say that a lot, that if you aren't giving to yourself in a certain way, how can you expect others to give that to you?
And I really feel like as you give to yourself in that way, you start to realize what your boundaries are with other people and knowing what you want from relationships, because you have to first give to yourself and understand what it is that you want out of relationships. This could be with a partner or with children, and what kind of parent you want to be. You don't know until you start giving to yourself and reparenting yourself and loving yourself. And then you realize there are some parenting cycles that I don't want to continue. And I get to change those habits, but you won't notice those things until you start with a little self-love.
And also parenting yourself with that same as well, because I feel like how you parent yourself is, if you have kids, that's kind of how you parent them too. That's that voice of how you talk to themselves. Then also is how they will talk to themselves. If they see you, even if you do your best to just talk with love and treat them as the little people they are, but you like shame yourself and you're horrible for breaking something, for making a mess, for not cleaning up all the time,
for getting too excited, too loud, too upset, too much. I feel like that's a common thing that comes up with kids. They're too much. And I never want them to feel that way. I feel that way as an adult sometimes, and I hate it.
They're going to pick up our energy around that,
whether we say it or not.
I mean, there are plenty of times when, especially now, we hear that phrase, take up space. It is so important to take up space. Walking around, and I read this one time where it said, in other countries, I think it was maybe France, but I could totally be wrong, where there's someone from the United States was walking in a store, and then like they, barely touched somebody. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to bump, I didn't mean to be in your space. And they're like, they didn't even touch me. What? And it's because we're so cautious of, oh, I can't touch this. I can't do that. And oh, my body's here. Like we're crouching in on ourselves, as opposed to like just spreading those wings. And no, we don't have to bump into random people. But in my opinion, when you open those wings, when you are taking up space, you're actually more aware of your surroundings, more aware of oh, there's somebody there, I won't bump into them, versus when you're like trying to cave in on yourself. Because caving in, we're trying to like reduce our field around us to basically being as close to our skin, which is actually kind of triggering. because
It's like walking on eggshells. You never know when you're going to slip up, and then you make a crunch sound and you jump and you're scared, and then you bump into someone, right?
whereas like, and then someone also gets really close to you, and even though your own shield is close to your skin, you can still feel it. It's like a zing. Versus if you have that bubble a little bit bigger because you're taking up the space to have the bubble bigger, they can get close and be like, oh, it's cool. They can bounce off me. We're gonna go bouncing in bubbles.
And that's witchy shit.
Yes. Something that we really learned slash were called back to last night was stepping into chaos.
Yes.
We both feel this. I'm very much of a OCD kind of person, and something that I'm trying to do and like really working with is tapping into my mystic archetype. And the place that I'm learning about the mystic archetype is saying the mystic is like a homemaker, and I can see this. It's very much of, if you look at like the, what it would be, 60s, 50s model, the homemaker was the idea of, look at how she keeps it clean. She's so mystic, and she's so, she's beautiful, and she does this and does that. And it's like the whole Princess Diana feel, and like I can't think of famous people. I'm not good with famous people names, but like Audrey Hepburn, like those kinds of feels, like mystic, not in the sense of like they wear the mystical garbs of magic, but the way they hold themselves, it draws people in. That's the mystic, where people want to be with them. And the idea that I was taught is that a way to really tap into your mystic is to have organization around you, so that you are able to like really focus in and not be distracted. And I feel that so deeply. However, I'm like stumbling for words because it's creativity isn't born out of organization.
Nope.
Creativity comes from chaos. That's actually like the opposite of it. When you look at the world, they say, first began chaos, essentially. And then we have like all of our, if you look at evolution, all of our planets came and organisms and et cetera, whatever that says. But it came from chaos. And technically, our universe is still chaos out there. You can't have, the things that birth from just organization, because it has to go through like a shattering period almost.
Mm-hmm. I almost feel like it's organized chaos, but that gets complicated.
It is. And I feel like we have to begin to be okay with chaos. Now, that's not saying like all the time, everything.
Well, I also think it's about coming to your center amongst the chaos. Life is going to happen. Shitty things are going to happen. Things happen all the time. And I don't want to manifest that for us or anything, but like life happens. Things happen. It is the way of the world. Chaos happens. And it's, instead of letting it consume you and you joining it or fighting against it, it's to flow with it. Remember the practices and tools and the things that bring you that center, that clarity amongst the chaos, so that you don't get lost in it.
And that's something we've talked about in other episodes of, I know I really talked about it whenever we were in Miami, about how I thought like the riding the waves was like trying to get the wave to be but
we
like,
did talk about this, yeah.
To be calm, because to me that was being the center, and in reality it's not. You can't make chaos calm. You yourself can be there's another realization. It's like you don't have to have the organization around you to create, right?
Mm-hmm.
Organization to keep yourself calm in the chaos. You yourself are the organization.
Mm-hmm.
You yourself are the calm being in the chaos once again. So in my perspective, tapping into the inner mystic, or whatever archetype is really calling to you, is being that center among all the shit that's going to happen. It's going to be there, one way or another. at some point in your life, something is gonna rear its head again in, whatever beauty and ugly way it needs to. Beautiful beauty.
And the archetype that I've really been working through is the Huntress Energy. And I haven't quite, like, Tara and I are both taking courses and learning more about these archetypes and what they mean. I haven't quite gotten as far, but it's very much the energy. I really think of like a lioness, the way that they have community, they hunt and they see their target and they know exactly how to approach it and sneak upon it and then leap for it. Or another, in my attempt at analogies, it's not biting elephants, but still good. Is Artemis, when she shoots her bow and she always hits her mark. It's that energy of, I'm going to go after what I want, and I don't really give a fuck about what anybody else thinks about it. And I really feel that energy is that's the era that I'm stepping into. I know if you've listened to my episode about stepping into my 30s, I really talk about that, of I just don't give a fuck era. And I've already lived to that point in my life of caring about what everybody else thinks. And I'm to the point where I need to let that go.
It gets tiring.
It's exhausting. And it's killing my joy, and I deserve joy.
Think about that for a moment. It's killing your joy to have to constantly reword how you say things. It's killing your joy to be a certain way so that it doesn't bother other people. I mean, if you think about an example, of Alyssa coming out as non-binary and really stepping into what they feel like for themselves, yet maybe having people in their life that are struggling with it or something. Anybody in this state, it's, you want to love on them and like help them kind of hold their hand, but you also want to just be you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true in any aspect. Like if you're doing your best to speak your truth, you don't want to say it this way because it's so much easier for them. And I'm still talking to myself too, because I've mentioned many times like how I talk with my dad and I speak on his level so that we can communicate. But even that is tiring. So maybe I don't. Maybe I just hold my peace, right? I don't say anything. Maybe that's better than like trying to help them understand so you can have conversation. Because sometimes it's just draining to think of an exact way to bridge that gap.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one doing all the work, truly.
Well, and I feel like in that instance, you sometimes rehearse conversations in your head. I mean, we've never explicitly talked about it, and she's shaking her head yes. So, and I feel like that's a very neurodivergent thing. And then also masking, people pleasing, trying to, I don't know about anybody else, but I know for me, growing up, I learned that I had this chameleon way of masking where I will fit in any group because I will become what they like. And I lost myself in that, and it stole my joy. And masking and it's a lot to unlearn. It's a hard thing to turn off. But at some point you got to turn it off, or you're going to be burnt out for the rest of your life and never know who you are or what you want.
I'm reading this book to my kids right now that I'm really addicted to myself. It's I don't even think it's a young adult. I think it's a juvenile category or whatever. And it's about this girl. It reminds me of Harry Potter in some ways. But it's about this girl who thinks that she's a human, and she can hear voices ever since she was 5 years old. She could hear the thoughts of other people, all the other humans around her. And everyone kind of thinks she's crazy. So she basically has stopped telling people this because she's like, well, you think I'm crazy, so I'm just going to shut up about it. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, having these splitting headaches. Well, she basically finds out at the very beginning of the book, which is why I can say this because I hate ruining books for people, hate ruining movies, that kind of thing. She finds out she's an elf, that she's actually an elf. And something like one of the very first things that she learns is how to put up barriers, how to like protect herself from the thoughts of others. And in this case, it's like literal thoughts that are pounding her brain because humans don't know how to restrict our thoughts from, going out and just attacking people basically. But that's also like in the world we live in, if we don't know how to not have our words go out and attack people, right? That it just pours out. So, how can we, in that sense, because I believe a lot of things, if not most things that you read, that you watch, are true in some aspect. Like I truly believe that. How can you guard your mind? How can you create a shield so that others can't get into that shield and so you can't hear their thoughts? Because as we're talking about replaying those conversations and feeling like you're having to speak a certain way, in reality, it's being true to yourself and blocking off, even worrying about what they're thinking and saying. And
It's almost as if you're trying to live into this idea that they have of you. So in a way, you are reading their thoughts and absorbing them and trying to anticipate them, right?
Go deeper on that. What do you mean that they have a view?
What'd you say?
What do you mean that they have a view? Like in what way?
Like, that I'm trying to think of an example. If you had a parent that told you ever since you were little that you're going to go to this college, and that their perception of you, their perception of success for you, their vision for you is to grow up and be this certain person. And so when you're in that conversation with them, you try to show up as that person, the person that they perceive you are versus the person that you are. So in a way, that's where you are absorbing their thoughts and trying to anticipate their needs because you are people pleasing and being that chameleon and picking up their energy. And you can feel as you slip up and live into your truth, that almost hint of disappointment, and it makes you crumble, right? And it's learning how to not crumble and to stand firm in who you are and accept that if people truly love you, they will celebrate your happiness and the way that you define success.
I mean, basically what you're saying is being a shapeshifter.
Mm-hmm.
But not in the shapeshifter sense of like, I'm wanting to show up as this person because I want them to perceive me this way. It almost is, in this instance, being a shapeshifter for survival,
Mm-hmm.
for love, to ensure that you aren't ostracized, that you're able to walk away.
Well, and I really think that the defense mechanism really comes out from ancient times, back when humans are first around. If you didn't fit in with the group, you were shunned and you wouldn't survive. You needed to fit in to survive. And that is literally an instinct that we get to heal and unlearn. And I do think it is important to find your tribe, but you don't have to fit into every tribe, I think is the lesson there. The more that you stand in your truth and the more that you stand in your authenticity, which I'm going to do a whole episode on, the more you will attract the people that are your people, that will celebrate you and respect your boundaries and respect the true version of who you are.
So, and I think that first starts with writing down who you are and who you want to be.
My least favorite activity.
Why is that?
It's a good activity. You're not wrong, but I have such a hard time putting to words, who am I? I know we've talked about this before when you're introducing yourself to somebody, and you're doing that with yourself, but how do you even begin to put into words this human experience? My body can barely contain my soul, let alone trying to pour it out onto paper. I do think it is important to write and to try to grasp that as much as you can. It's such a big question. I don't know.
Well, there was something that I heard from someone whenever I was doing Ayurveda school, and he said he learned from someone else a question of like, who am I, right? And it's like, answer that question without using the past as an example. And so, if I'm Tara Webb, I can say, I'm a mother, but is that who I am in this moment? Or is that, defined by what I've done in the past?
Ooh, that's defined by, okay.
So it's looking at like in this moment, who am I? Well, I'm recording a podcast. So I'm a podcast host, but even then, that's not really true. Because
It is and it isn't. Yeah.
right, it's like a title. This is definitely a deeper, a way deeper topic and thought process.
If you want us to go in a whole episode on it, let us know and we will.
I think it'd be fun for us as a community to dive into, and we would do it with y'all, dive into who are we? And like how we can actually find what those words are or those sensations. Because Alyssa's someone who, isn't it words that are more difficult for you to express after you because you feel things, right?
I do. I feel things so deeply, and I can pick up on emotions. I can pick up on sensations. And it's kind of like I can feel somebody walking, right? Some people see visions, and I know sometimes I do see things, but when it comes to tapping in, I feel the action happening. I feel or taste something. I know that gets into two different senses, but yeah.
Let's talk about those because we've never talked about them, of what the clairs actually are.
Yeah. So, you're going to quiz me. I don't remember what they're all called, but they're essentially your five senses, right? So we have clairaudient, which is hearing. Clairsentient is feeling, right? I believe so. And then we have clairvoyant. Ooh, is that one seeing or knowing? Clairvoyant is knowing.
Clairvoyant is knowing.
Is knowing. You just know. You walk up to somebody and you just know. Or you are writing a book and you come up with this, Tara's done this word or methodology in your book, and then you find out it's actually a real thing, or it has this deeper meaning that actually falls right into place because you tapped into that ancient wisdom of knowing. I'm missing some. I don't know what taste is called, and I don't know what seeing is called. I think Tara's going to pull it up for us.
I'm looking it up. That's why I'm so silent.
As I'm sitting here asking her questions.
I just name them off. So the clairaudience, clairvoyance. So clairaudience is talking like voices in the mind, audio.
You hear someone telling you something, but not in a crazy way. And if you do hear voices in that, like, oh, this is a fine line. Don't be scared if you hear voices. Allow yourself to tap into that.
Clairvoyance is like psychic, is how you can kind of see it. I'm reading something here that says, if I see an image of the continental plate shifting or the ground shaking, it means that the client is experiencing such dramatic life changes that nothing feels stable, right? So you are sensing something in that way.
I want to go back to clairaudient too, not just voices, also music.
Yes.
If you really connect with music and can express yourself through music, that's another clairaudient thing.
Mm-hmm. There's clairsentience, and that is feeling.
That's me. We have all of these in us, just to clarify, but that is my primary.
How you're more likely to tap into that. And there's claircognizance, which is an immediate download of intuition. And that's definitely, it's like you just know something. And honestly, that is very difficult to explain, as all of them are. But
I was gonna say that one sounds very similar to the other one, where you said the psychic one. You just kind of, I guess the psychic one is more you have a vision.
So like clairsentience versus claircognizance. Is that what
Yeah. Yeah.
So clairsentience is feeling a person's or spirit's emotions and feelings and like feeling something. Clairvoyance is seeing something through our mind's eye, like we're able to see the pictures of how things are built.
Visual. Okay.
Claircognizance is just knowing. So think about clairsentience of feeling is I can feel the chills.
I get chills a lot.
Yeah, this feels this way. Sometimes like actual pain, you know. Claircognizance is clear knowing of something. So there's many times when I'll be talking with Justin, I'll just be like, you know, you need to do this, or we should go this way or something, or, you know, actually they're not going to take that return or whatever. And he's like, well, can you just check for me? I'm like, I don't like checking and making phone calls and stuff. It's not a thing I enjoy doing. He knows I'm not like a big phone call person. When I have to like call for things, I will do it. I'm an adult. Wow. But I don't enjoy it. So it's partially that, and it's partially like, hey, I know that they're closed. I just know they won't do this. I just know this won't happen. And he's like, can you just check? I'm like, I don't want to check. Because I don't, when you have that feeling, it's like they're second guessing you, and they're not. People just want to have their own understanding around it, and so that's where it comes from. And you just know things. And the last one that we didn't get is Gustance.
Is that the taste?
Yes, that's taste.
Gustance. I like it. I'm
feel
curious about the language here, but we can get into that on another day.
It makes me think of Gustance from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Chocolate he was eating. And so yeah, I'm curious, you know, if you're really tapping into like what these audiences and clairs are for you, you know, what you're feeling into, and don't second guess yourself on it. If you're just someone who always has a sixth sense about something and knowing it, then cool. You don't have to have a name for it. And like Alyssa said, we have all of them in us. But this whole tangent
I don't know how we got here, but here's where we are.
was because we're saying that Alyssa feels things more so.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, I definitely see pictures.
Oh, yeah. Very vivid.
Very vivid. And that's how I also see past life things, is through pictures and stuff. And I also just know things.
Well, I also feel like when we talk about you seeing things, and you said past lives, and we've never talked about this, but I almost feel like you can project that image into someone's mind. Because when we did our past life journey together, you would start saying things and I would start to see it unfold, and I would see it before you would say it, and I would be in the same space as you. Now, whether we're seeing the exact same thing, who knows? But I felt that energy in that space, and I could start to see those images come to life.
And I've also wondered that. And one, I think
Theater magic.
I think that partially comes with like when you read my books.
Yes.
And I'm also, you know, typing those words out, and you're seeing things very real. Go grab discerning her shadows, side note.
Yes, for real. I don't see things, I don't see pictures very often. So when I read your book, I ate the shit out of that, because I could actually see what was happening.
And it's funny because my brother read it and he said, do you realize that you're telling the future? I was like, yeah. In the way of, you know, that's different for some people, right? He saw it in a different way, and I see it as like, I'm telling how things unfold. But it very much is. If you read that, you know, connecting with certain people and with me, it's able to project that and help others kind of see themselves too. I also see people for who they are and like who they can be. So like when I'm talking to someone, we have a really dear friend that's been on our podcast, Stella. And when I first met Stella, she was not like really shy in her shell. She was beginning to come out, but I just saw like massive potential, massive growth for her. And she still has that. She's, transcended so much since then. But, when I talk to you and start getting to know you, I can see certain things about you. And what Alyssa said earlier was say your magic. And this is part of Norse mythology where it's actually like weaving the webs of reality and being able to like create that reality. And for example, some of it's even like, you can see like these, let's say there's 3 lines ahead of me of different paths that are ahead. And one is like, right now I'm homeless and I can either, continue to be homeless for a little bit longer, or I can go take this job that like I don't really like and they're going to treat me like shit, but I make money. And this other one is, I maybe find something on my own. And it's like, I really don't like just being homeless. That just sucks. Can you just cut that cord? And in that moment, someone would be like, yeah, that makes total sense. But what someone would say on Magic would do is like look at the future of that and go, yes, but this path actually gets you to be like a millionaire. So let's just like sit on this for a little bit versus being very impulsive. And so that's part of the seeing and projecting. And
I love that because that's also kind of your shadow too, because you and I are both a little impulsive sometimes.
So very much. I think looking at choosing a coach was the most less impulsive. I don't know a word for that. Least impulsive. I would
intentional.
Very intentional. And I feel like a lot of times we have this, especially with marketing. Do it now. You have to do it. Oh, like sign up now and you only have this deal for so long. And I understand it, but it's like it's the shadow side of, we don't want to have scarcity mindset. We want to have abundance mindset.
But then we teach scarcity. Yeah. It's, I get to work on my relationship with marketing.
Yes.
Oh, you know what you need to tell them about?
You
need to tell them about your lovely Black Widow.
Yes. So I think I've told the story of the Black Widow spider. Have I told it on here?
That's a great question. I think you have. Brief description of the story.
I'll say it quickly, like a brief, just so for those who maybe didn't catch that episode, or if we actually didn't say it and we have no idea.
We talk to each other so much, I don't even know what's recording and what's not.
Half of what we actually say. And yeah, so I'm actually slightly terrified of Black Widows, which is, you'd think, oh yeah, of course, they're Black Widows, they're deadly. Yeah, no, like even more so than what I would normally think. I've actually been pretty scared of spiders for a while. And, go me for choosing my last name as Webb. But, when I was in Texas, a Black Widow actually appeared in our house and Justin put a cup over it and it still just freaked me the fuck out. Like, I just could not handle this. Did my best. I was in tears crying. And, if I'm in tears crying over an arachnid, that definitely means that there's some shadow work to deal with, right? Like if something's that pretty intense for you, I definitely feel that. So I've been meaning to work with spiders, and let me tell you, the amount of spiders I've seen, even like when choosing web, but also since this incident, has just like tripled. I've seen so many spiders lately. And
I think you're bringing them into my life, or Loki. That's a story for another day.
This episode and see spiders, know that I love you. Shoot them away, take them outside, just do your best. So we went to Target a few days ago, and I've been knowing I needed to tap into like Black Widow energy, but also spider energy, and just really dig what this means for me. And it's called a Robo Alive. They have them at Target, and there's like dragons, and there's a flying roach on one of them. I don't know why you'd create that. They have it. They also have this
because they have beautiful lessons to teach us, Tara, but they're gross.
The Black Widow spider robot that I bought.
Robot.
You
reiterate that it moves.
It does. And I mean, it's a good thing. sound like it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
It
There are
is.
things that are terrifying you, and I tell my boys this all the time. We address them. We take that courageous step. It is very important to look at the fear and not just go, "Whoa, I'm scared of water. I'm just gonna walk away from that." No, I'm scared of water, and what is this teaching me? Right? No, don't go dunk yourself in water to like get rid of the fear.
Don't traumatize yourself. Yeah.
Let's like take baby steps. Like, pouring water over your head, maybe, right? Let's do baby steps. My baby step was getting a little robot. Okay. So I have it in a box, and I was like, you know what? As we do our coaching stuff yesterday, I was like, I'm just gonna take it out of the box. No big deal. I'm not gonna touch, hold it, whatever. So I'm trying to get the damn tape off because they just make packages so difficult nowadays. Trying to get the tape off, and it's like moving. And I'm just like, I'll just leave it on. I'll take the lid off and I'll just leave it. It's fine. It's fine. I'll just leave it in like the rest of the box because like you have to actually pull the thing out to do it. It's not like an underneath, like, oh, can I do this? No, like you have to get close to it. And I was that kid who, I don't know if anybody else has ever heard of this book. It was like this massive book of bugs and animals, I think. But there was this one page. It was like a large book. There's one page that you turn it, and on 2 full pages, it had these the eyes of the spider with like, I think it was like a tarantula, like just covering me. Like you could see nothing else but the front of the spider covering this page. And I would have to like legit, like barely touch the page to turn it because I couldn't even touch this fake page of the spider. Like it freaked me out.
So interesting you chose web. And I love how the way that you open the box is such a lesson in and of itself that we are actually learning currently about how to get started and taking baby steps. And
Put the lid back on as best as I could. Because when I set the box down on the altar that we have, the thing looks real.
it does.
The way it moves was like, yeah, it's fine. No, it's fine. We're good. I put the lid back on and the lid won't go back on. I was like, yeah, it's not staying. No, it's not going to be up here right now. It's at the side right here and it's staring at me and it still causes me legit fear. It's a robot. Like there's some intense beautifulness in this. Let's go on a journey, Magic Weavers. Over the next however long it takes me to get this damn spider out and just to hold it in my hand.
You'll have to share it on our Insta when you finally do.
So that is your challenge for this week. It has nothing to do with Black Widows. It has everything to do with what is scary to you. What can you step into? We talked about a lot of different topics as we tend to do. But I think the big ones, just, the chaos around us. The Black Widow's chaos. I cannot control anything about that, It's how I am. And that's the whole point. Justin, I was like freaking out as he had had the spider like locked in, wasn't going anywhere, that I was terrified. That's for me. So how do I regain my calm in the place of chaos? As fear is surrounding me, how can I be courageous and brave and just really tap into what that means for me? And so I think it's a beautiful challenge for this week of what are you scared of? Like truly, what it just like the thought of it just sends shivers down your spine. It's like, why are you even bringing this up? Deep down that it's like traumatizing to me. And I mean, I have a few, but I never knew how intense Black Widow spiders are. For me, maybe other spiders somewhat, but like Black Widows, they hold a special place. And I encourage you to figure out what it is and what's a baby step. Like we're talking a minute step. I try to go too fast, too soon.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to be big and bad.
An example would be if you're going to, let's say, it's kind of an example. It's an example of baby steps, not a fear. So let's say you really want to get back into reading. A baby step for that would be to maybe pick out a book, Google some books, or maybe even just look at different genres and decide on a genre. It's not going and buying the book and having 20 books that you're never going to read sitting on your bookshelf. Really intentionally go through the baby steps of picking the book that you want to read and then order it.
Yeah, and even then, like, mine was buying the spider.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at it, it's down there. Mine was buying the spider, and what I should have done, and I will do, is now journaling about that, meditating maybe with the thing on my yoga.
I love your body language as you say that.
I'm like twitching over here, y'all. Just so you know. But it's taking those baby steps. Like, okay, now I have this. Now you've done the research on the genre, right? So write about why that genre is calling you. You know, maybe grab a book similar to what you're looking for and put it on your nightstand, not to read it, but to have it in the vicinity of reading again. You know, it is taking those baby steps and, you know, picking up a book and flipping through it and smelling the pages. Because for me, that's a big thing of reading. Seeing, like, you know, how you can get yourself in that mindset as well. Alyssa, what's your fear?
I was actually going to mention that your fear can be anything, and whatever comes up when we talk about this is valid. A fear that I have been working on for years, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot for me, was hugging. I hated hugging people. It scared me. The idea that we greet people by mushing bodies together is just so odd to me. Why entire body compression together? This is how we say hello. Makes complete sense. Not. But and I also have a little bit of past trauma with that. And so hugs and people touching my skin used to, even talking about it just makes my skin crawl. I don't like the way it feels. I do now. Let's say I used to not like the way it feels. I do now when done in the right way and with people that I trust and love. And I think, you know, with my husband and actually getting married and being intimate with someone was a big step for me. And then going on the Rose Gold Goddess retreat that we just went on and meeting so many people, that was my first real big event like that. And we are a very loving community and everybody wants to hug. And I put myself out there, but I also enjoyed it. And I loved the energy exchange. It took me, I'm glad that I took the steps over the past few years to get to that point. And even with my kids, sometimes I get touched out, but I also want to make sure that I hug and kiss my babies.
Yeah.
So fears can be weird. It can be whatever. Got spider and hugs.
And there's not, you're not just gonna have one either. I mean, I still have a fear of heights.
Oh yeah. I have a fear of heights because I actually literally think about jumping off. What would happen? You should jump. I'm like, why am I thinking that? That's silly. Don't jump.
I was talking to my son about that as he hears intrusive thoughts of like sneaking and it being, you know, hey, I have intrusive thoughts. Maybe I should throw my phone to the ground. Maybe I should, you know, topple down these stairs. Like, and teaching him that those aren't us. Those are not our thoughts. That is not who we are. So that's another topic for another episode. But find your fear and figure out, even if it's not taking that step, figuring out that one step that you can take.
Mm-hmm. We'll see you on the next one.
This concludes another episode of our Weaving Magick podcast.
We release one episode a week, so be sure to subscribe to catch the latest episode as soon as it releases. You can find us on Instagram at Weaving Magick Podcast. That's Weaving Magick, Magick Podcast.
We would also love it if you could leave us a review. If you do, make sure to email us your review so we can send you a thank you gift. Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to find a way to weave magic into your daily life.